Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time once again for XRL's X3 series. Today's race is at Hungary as we are closing in rapidly on starting up qualifying, so I'll run you through the drivers today. In the Mercedes team, it's Francis Kane Fishbone. The Scuderia Ferrari team, it's XRL Azza and Mr. Anderson. In the Aston Martin Red Bull team, it's XRL Fiend and XRL Dino. In the McLaren F1 team, it's Retro Xie and Dave Eward. In the Renault team, it's XRL Whippy and Higsby 97. In the Scuderia AlphaTauri Honda team, it's XRL Gusty and Collie Boy. The Tracing Point team is being represented by Schold and Constant Jet. The Alfa Romeo team is being represented by Prudish Metal and Boothie116. The Haas F1 team is being represented by Checker and Tassani. And the Williams team is being represented by Mufasta and Books as we're preparing to load up into the race itself now. Just stand by until we load up onto the circuit properly right now. So right now, it seems like the circuit, here we are, everyone's beginning to properly ready up, so we should be onto the circuit very shortly. Now, Hungary's been on the F1 calendar for a little bit of time, has gone through a few minor adjustments. A big element now is that Hungary has the really hard to overtake issues that Monaco has, but there's a lot of runoff. So if you do go ahead and shoot for the moon, it's not necessarily going to be a game over. You have a little bit, and here we are. It looks like we're going to be looking at a wet weather qualifying session, and that could make for a very interesting day, to say the least. Drivers probably still set up with dry setups in mind will now have to figure out some way to quickly adjust. Everyone seems to have full wet tires equipped currently in the pit lane. You see some movement in the Ferrari team. That is XRL Ozan. It looks like he's going to try and be the first driver to get out onto the circuit. Behind him, not seeing very much movement in the rest of the field right now. Oh, no, actually, I take that back. That is Mr. Anderson. The other Ferrari is also going to come out. He is being joined by the Tracing Point of Schold, and now we're seeing a lot more movement. That is your points leader, XR Whippy, who is also now on the way down pit lane. Tassani is still in the pit, so he's making the interesting choice to equip intermediate tires right now instead of full wets. But everyone else right now still has full wets. I say that, but Constant Jet has now equipped intermediate tires. So intermediates will naturally be faster if the track isn't completely and utterly soaked and lost. Right now, though, this is Whippy we're riding on board with and following. Oh, and he's almost spinning. No, he's around. He's 100% around, but he's going to keep it off the walls. And on his outlap alone, your points leader are having some significant issues right off the bat. But meanwhile, the first driver at the front of the grid right now is XRL Azda in the middle of an outlap. Looks very nice, very in control of that Ferrari today. Or at least for the, 2/3 of a lap we've seen him thus far. He was saying before the race started that he really wanted rain in this session. It looks like he's getting at least rain in qualifying. There is a possibility that the track will dry out in the latter bits of qualifying and into the race itself. But for now, it is wet like he wants. We're going to go ahead and ride on board with Azda for a lap to see what it's like right at Hungary in full wet weather. sorry to cut into the broadcast while in the middle of right on board, but we saw one of the Haas's have an incident in the second to last corner, and then Dino has similarly had an accident coming around the last corner now. And there's a massive chunk taken out of the front wing of that car that is not going to help him one bit. Anyways, as we look real quickly back to Oz's, he's going to try and be the first driver to set a lap time in this session. Opal Sector 2 running through the last few corners right now. We will get a full lap on board with someone else a little bit later. Oh, and Tasani has had an incident. Can't see him right now. Might be able to see him while we're riding on board Dino here. But Tasani, one of the drivers... Ooh, and that car is completely destroyed. There is nothing left on the left side of that machine. And Tasani will be your first DNF of the session. Meanwhile, Ozza goes to the top with a 131.938. This is Shecker right now as he's trying to set a lap at the moment. Mr. Anderson, Ozza's teammate, goes up to a 132.502. Pruish Metal, 133.118. We're going to try and reach out to Tasani and see what happened from his perspective. As we have a massive incident very early on here. And Shecker now goes to the top with a 130.851. Alright, coming into the party right now is Tasani. Tasani, go ahead, make sure your audio's included. Oh, and Shecker gets a little bit sideways there coming through. Tasani, an accident very early in qualifying session 1. What happened out there? Absolute travesty to see that happen. Do you think you can make up from your dead last starting position and get into the points? Alright, well, that's the word from Tasani. Again, it's a shame to see you get knocked out so early. Also, one other question. Were you the one who had the incident going through the last 2 corners the lap before, or was that your teammate? Because I saw one of the Haas. Okay, because I know I saw one of the Haas's get around through there, but I couldn't see who it was. Okay, thank you very much, and good luck in the race, mate. Higsby is the first driver on the intermediate tires to get his time on the board. It is not very fast compared to the fastest times on the full wets, 133.242. But he is going to show that the intermediate tires can put a lap time down right now, as Gusty is now in the middle of a flyer lap. Books is on an out lap. Constant Jet has come back into the pit lane right now. Gonna be silent for a bit and run on board with Gusty on the intermediates to see what it's like riding intermediates in this very wet scenario here. We gotta cut in there because Mufasa has had an incident right before he would have started a flyer lap, and it happens right before pit lane entry, thankfully, so he is able to bring it back into pits. But a very interesting scenario, to say the least, as one of the Williams are now having to come back into the pits. His teammate Books, though, is in the middle of the lap. Books is on the intermediate tires. We'll ride on board with him instead now, I guess. Books gets really sideways, but Retro Rixie goes to the top with a 130.835, and then right afterwards, it's Books who goes to the top with a 130.820. So the intermediate tires do seem to be the tire of choice for the fastest lap times possible, but it seems like there's a lot more going on than just being able to have the fastest lap time possible. A lot of drivers are having trouble keeping control of their cars, regardless if it's on wet tires or intermediate tires. Dino is just shaking chunks out of the front wing of that car, trying to get his Red Bull turned the right way so it can get underway. Right now, only 12 drivers have put down, well, realistically, only 11 drivers have put down anything that could seriously be considered a serious lap time. And then Skinny Fishbone, Schold, and Dave Ewar have all had incidents that have made their lap times be extremely slow. There's 9 minutes left in the session still. We could be looking at a scenario where a driver might not even be able to set a lap time before the session is over. Mufasa's in the middle of a lap right now, well, an out lap right now, as he's going through that little chicane there in Sector 2. Constant Jet has yet to set a lap, but he is in the middle of one right now, coming at the end of Sector 2, 104.827. That is XRL Dino, who is just ahead, and he's going to have to hope, Constant Jet's going to have to hope that Dino will not upset his line coming out of the corner here. Ooh, look at that. Constant sliding the rear end of that tracing point all over the place. Retro goes to the top on the full wets with a 130.544. So Retro is regaining some of the ability and speed that he had last season, and that is a Ferrari that has had an incident. That is Ozda, who was the first driver to set a lap. He has had an incident early on in the lap already. He is out on the track on the intermediates, but a massive chunk out of the front wing. He's going to have to pit for that. Right now, it seems like intermediates are without a doubt the tire choice for everyone except this man here, Retro Rixie. Oh, and as I say that, look at him. He gets really sideways going through the corners. He's able to save it, though, but that was definitely a little bit tighter. And Schold is sideways. Schold is off circuit there in Sector 2. He's getting back underway, but he's completely in the infield right now. He has set a lap time of a 141.096. That would not be enough to guarantee him a spot right now. He is on the bubble, and Boothie and Mufasa are both in the middle of laps right now. Boothie is coming along to the final corner. Oh, and I believe Oz has had another incident. Yes, Oz has had another incident in Sector 2 now. Here comes Boothie. Boothie, second on the timesheets, 129.951. Either the track is getting faster or the drivers are really figuring this stuff out, because the lap times have dropped significantly. We were looking at high 131s early in the session. It has dropped rapidly to 129s, and for drivers like Collie Boy, Schold, and Dave Ewart, this is not looking good for them. Mufasa is still in the middle of a lap right now. He just has 3 more corners left to navigate, now 2 corners. Dino has yet to set a lap. He has tried several times, but incidents keep happening that keep him from being able to set a lap time here. Alright, here we are around the final corner. The final Williams will finally set his lap time, and it will be a time of 139.892. That is not a competitive lap time. Mufasa needs to improve significantly. Right now, Collie Boy is the driver on the bubble. He's out there trying to improve, but he's invalidated the lap he's in the middle of. And all over the track, we're seeing incidents with yellow flags coming all out across the entire circuit pretty much. Whippy is out on circuit. He is up by 1.3 seconds off of his prior best time. If Whippy can keep that together, he might. Well, as I say that, it looks like he's already lost a bunch of it. Dino, in the middle of an out lap. He is the last driver who needs to set a lap time. Dave Ewart has a lap time in the banker, but it is more than 30 seconds off pace of everyone else. He needs to put a serious lap time down. Schold is up by almost half a second, but he's an invalid lap. And then Mufasa is in the middle of a lap right now as well. But the main focus, for me at least, is going to be what can Mufasa do, what can Dave Ewart do, and then after that, what can Dino do, because time is running out fast. Mufasa up by 7.7 seconds. That's very good. That would put him at least up in the 12th or 13th positions if he can keep it together. Not enough to be safe, but it would be significantly better than the time he currently has. Oh, and there's a Williams that has had an incident. That is Skinny Fishbone, who has had an incident on his out lap. Whippy goes to the top, 128.927. Mufasa jumps up to 13th, 132.041. Dave Ewart is the next driver we're going to be focusing on. He is up by apparently 7.5 seconds at the end of Sector 2. But considering that he has a time, this is where he gains all the time back. 130.157. So 31 seconds improvement. Dave Ewart now up into the 5th position. Dino is the next driver we're looking at. He has yet to set a lap time in the session. Mr. Anderson goes to the top, 127.826. The times at the top are dropping rapidly. Oh, and that's Fiend. Fiend has had an incident. Dino trying to make something happen right now. Oh, and that's another Williams that's had an accident. That's Mufasa. Mufasa's pulling over, actually. He's not having an incident. He's just pulled over to let there be a little bit cleaner track. Here comes Dino. He's finally going to set a serious competitive lap time. What is it going to be? At the line, to the top, 127.334. It took a long time, but Dino goes right to the top. Now, Schold is in the middle of an out lap right now. There are 3 minutes and 45 seconds left. He's going to have to hustle if he wants to get 2 laps to get this going. Right now, Schold is on the outside. Collie Boy is on the outside, and he's abandoning the lap he was in the middle of. So Collie Boy realizes there's no case for him to advance. Skate Fishbone is up by 1.5 seconds right now in the middle of a lap. But he's going to need to improve by a little bit more if he wants to make it in. Fiend is in the middle of an out lap right now, and Mufasa is the driver on the bubble. But there is a fuel warning light on that car right now as it looks like he's on a cooldown lap. Mufasa has to hope that everyone behind him cannot improve whatsoever. Schold in the middle of an out lap. Skate Fishbone on his cooldown lap right now. Oh, and that is a Red Bull. That is Dino, who's had another incident. Mufasa is also extremely slow on the back. Not on the back, in the last corners. I believe he'll be coming into the pits. He's Fiend in the middle of a flyer lap. He's 16th on the timesheets right now. He's up by a significant amount. He only needs to improve by 7 thousandths to beat Mufasa right now, and he's up by closer to 7 tenths. Collie Boy is on another out lap, but will he have enough time to get to the line and set a flyer? That's going to be the question for him. If nothing goes wrong, he should be able to do it, but all it would take is a spin, and any chance he would have of improving will be gone. Schold is in the middle of the lap right now. He is up by only 1.2 seconds, though, at the end of Sector 1. That's not going to help him a whole lot. Fiend is now up by 2.3 seconds at the end of Sector 2, so Fiend might be able to jump up. Ozza has gone up from 14th to 7th, so Ozza is taking himself out of the danger zone for the moment. Fiend comes out of that final corner. At the line. Up to 9th, 128.918. Higsby is now the driver on the bubble right now, but he is up by 1.6 seconds at the moment. Fratters is outside looking in, but he is up by 15 hundredths right now. Schold is going through the last few quarters. He is up by 5.1 seconds at the moment, but that in itself would not be enough. He needs to improve by even more if he even wants to be competitive, let alone try to make it into Session 2. Relatively wide line through the final corner there. To the line. It's a 130.823. That's good enough for 16th, and he has enough maybe in the tank for one more lap. He is on the outside looking in. Retrorixie is a driver on the bubble, but right now he is up by 9 tenths in the middle of the lap that he's currently on. Fratters is in the middle of a lap, and he is up by 1.5 seconds. Mufasa has retired into the pits. He is not going to get a chance. Collie Boy is up by 3.4 seconds right now. The times have dropped drastically as the session has gone on. Here comes Retro. Last corner, he's up by 2.4 seconds. Dave Ewart is now the driver on the bubble, so Retro might knock his teammate out of the session. He does! To the top, 126.906. Schold is coming all around right now in Sector 2. Fratters in the middle of the lap. He is up by 1.7 seconds. He is on the bubble trying to get himself off of it right now. He's invalidated! So now Frater's only hope is that Scholl makes a mistake, and Scholl is invalidated the lap he's in the middle of. Collie Boy, though, is up by 3.6 seconds, so Collie Boy might still have what it takes to knock Retro out of the session. Retro retires from the session because he has just had an incident. Retro Rixie has just had an accident on the circuit, I believe. And his car is destroyed. It has been taken out, and Retro might not even get a chance to properly advance to the next session. Collie Boy is coming around the final corner right now, and at the line, he jumps up into 12th, 128.937. But Retro Rixie, who had the fastest lap time of the entire session, has now been knocked out of the race. And now Fiend has had an incident as well, but Retro Rixie has been knocked out of maybe Q2 by an accident of his own doing in the last moments of the session. And we may only see 14 drivers advance. Unless, Frater's in the middle of an invalid lap and Scholl's retired into the pits. So indeed, it looks like Retro Rixie has crashed out and will not advance. We may only have 14 drivers going into qualifying session 2. We're going to try and reach out to Retro Rixie here and see what happened. But an absolute tremendous moment there, and that puts Dino back on the top of the timesheets at the end. But just to put things in perspective, the spread in times just from 1st to 14th is 2.1 seconds. The spread of times from 1st to 19th, or the fastest time to the slowest time, was closer to 6 full seconds. So there are a lot of drivers who are really struggling and not able to find the proper grip on the track in these wet conditions. The session should be coming to a close very shortly here. There are still cars out on the circuit, but the cars that are out on the circuit are just being controlled by the AI at the moment. Gonna try and reach out to Retro Rixie one more time. But there is your lineup. And in the end, the intermediate tires were indeed the ideal tires to run. But Tassani, Mufasa, Scholl, Davey Wart, Fratters, and Retro Rixie, none of them will advance into Q2. Constant Jet, Collie Boy, Gusty, Whippy, Higsby, Skate, Fishbone, Fiend, Boothy, Ozza, Mr. Anderson, Books, Checker, Prudish Metal, and Dino all will advance into the next section. And also, I didn't notice, but Prudish Metal came within about it says 72 thousandths of Dino's fastest lap. And we ended up with 6 drivers in the 127s by the end of that session. So this could end up being very interesting, to say the least. And if the track stays wet throughout the entirety of Q2, we will probably see times come down a little bit for the drivers who are closer to the rear. They'll be a little bit more experienced with the circuit, and everyone now knows that the intermediates are the tire of choice. But a lot of interesting scenarios when it came to the tire swapping. Everyone initially went out on the wets. Tassani was one of the few who started on the intermediates, crashed out on the intermediates, and then right after he crashed out, everyone else jumped on the intermediates and did what Tassani was planning to do pretty much without incident, except for Retro, who has crashed out. We've not been able to reach out and get in contact with him, sadly. No new rain is falling on the circuit, but the track itself still seems to be relatively wet. Dino is already on the way out of the pit lane, as is Prudish Metal in the Alpha. He will be the first car to come out onto the circuit, and that behind him is Checker in the Haas. Already a little Congo line. Already we're seeing almost half the field trying to get out onto the circuit right now to set laps relatively as soon as they can. Skinny Fishbone, the only Mercedes to make it into this session. Make something happen in the Merc. And then both of the Ferraris, Mr. Anderson and just behind him, XRL Ozda, with points out on circuit. So exactly half of the cars that made it into Q2 are currently out on circuit right now. British Metal pulls over on the track to try and give some more room for Checker. So now Checker will be in that ideal scenario. There's going to be nothing but clean track ahead of him in theory. All 7 of these drivers do still seem to be relatively close to each other, and that could cause an incident, especially for Dino here, because Dino can see British Metal right ahead. He's going to need to figure out some way to get some gap between himself and British Metal, because if British Metal makes a mistake, it could wreak havoc on his lap. Also, we see that as Gusty was pulling over farther back. There we are. Dino pulls over to get some more room, and as Gusty was also pulled over farther back to get behind the Ferraris. We are now seeing Collie Boy and Whippy out on the circuit, as well as is Books. Books is on his way out into the circuit right now. And this could get very interesting because for Checker, he's going to end up right behind Books. Books wisely pulls completely off the circuit. You can see there is no new rain falling on the circuit, but the track is still wet for now. There's 12 minutes and 30 seconds left in the session. The track may dry up enough that drivers might go ahead and try jumping on the softs by the very end of the session. Ooh! And Checker invalidates the lap he was in the middle of. So now that means that, and British Metal has invalidated his lap as well. So now that means that right now, the first driver who will likely try and set a lap time will be XRL Dino. He's got purple sector 2 as well, so right now, Dino just has 3 more corners to navigate. Now only 2 more corners to navigate. Then he'll be able to set the time for that everyone else will have to chase in this session. Last corner as we speak. DRS pops open. Well, no, actually, I take that back. I'm so used to saying that, but it doesn't actually pop open because we're still under wet scenarios. So right now, the fastest time, 127.134, Mr. Anderson. Second fastest, 128.068, Gusty, 128.571. Now Ozza goes up to second fastest, 127.875, but Skate Fishbone did not have a great lap, 134.388. He's going to need to improve on that somehow. British Metal is in the middle of another lap. Here comes Books. He is beginning his lap as we speak. This is your points leader, Whippy, in the middle of a lap right now. As of now, Higsby, Checker, and Fiend are all still in the pits, and none of those 3 have made a move to get onto the circuit yet. Purple sector 2 for Whippy. Oh, and Checker has equipped softs in the pit lane. So Checker seems to think the track might be dry enough that you might be able to set a better time on the softs, even if you're struggling with it. We are seeing less and less spray come out from the back of the cars right now. Whippy goes fourth, 128.160. And that is Ozza. We've seen it time and time happen to Ozza. Puts everything into it, his heart and soul into it, puts down an amazing lap, and then has a crash right afterwards. No damage to that car, though, although I imagine the tires are not going to be very happy. No movement in the Haas pit yet. Well, actually, as I say that, I'm seeing some right now. I think he's going to come out very shortly. Boothie has invalidated the lap he was in the middle of, but British Metal, this is his 3rd attempt at trying, and there we are. The word is that DRS has been enabled. So all these drivers who have already set times on intermediate tires are going to have to abandon it, and now everyone's going to have to figure out, okay, do you run the soft tire compound? Do you run the medium tire compound? Because if the game says that DRS can be enabled, and that means the track is dry enough to warrant running slicks, and they will be the slicks that you will likely have to start the race on. little bit of an instant for Boy. He was in the middle of a lap. Nothing still from Checker. Brutish Metal is aborting the lap he was in the middle of. He is likely going to come into the pits and throw on softs. Because right now, everyone except for Gusty and Constant Jet are in the pits or on their way into the pits. And I imagine Constant Jet will probably come in as well because he is on a much slower lap now than what he was on before. See Fishbone coming into the pits right now. Everyone is now in the pits except, but there we are. That's Checker. He's been on the sauce, been waiting, and he's coming out onto the circuit. Ozda is equipping the mediums, as is Boothy. Books has equipped the soft tire compound. Now Whippy is equipping the medium tire compounds. But Checker was waiting for this. He felt that the track was drying up fast enough that you could jump onto softs relatively early in the session. And because basically almost half of the session is lost time-wise, this means, he invalidates. It is an outlap, so it doesn't matter too much. But basically, because half the session is eradicated, because it was run under wet or intermediate tires, we are going to see a crazy scramble to try and get one good lap in as fast as possible. We will see the lap times drop very fast. Right now, the fastest time is 1:27.134. We're going to see that drop with speed here very quickly. Checker abandoning the lap that he was setting up for as coming into the pits instead. So he has thrown away these advantage that he did have. Very interesting choice. So this means that Books will try and be the first driver to set a lap time on the soft tires. And now he is abandoning the lap that he was going to set. So now the advantage goes to Boothy. Boothy is actually staying out on the circuit. We'll run on board with him for a lap to see the difference running on wets to running on dries here. There you have it, folks. The difference between running on intermediates and running with DRS on mediums is close to 11 seconds here. Boothy to the top, 116.496, and we only have less than 5 minutes left in the session. Boy goes to second on the softs with a 118.245. And the next driver who should cross the line for a flyer should be Gusty. He is up by 7.6 seconds at the end of Sector 2 alone, and will take off even more time here at Sector 3. And the cloud cover above the racetrack is beginning to fall apart as well, so the track should heat up and will make getting to the optimum tire temperature a little bit easier. Gusty, 117.455. Now here comes Checker. He came out on softs, aborted the lap, and now he is going to begin another flyer. Now he's going to choose the medium. So right now, Boy is the only driver who has equipped the soft tires for the moment. Bean is in the middle of an outlap right now. Dino is in the middle of an outlap. middle of an outlap. Ozda is coming around the final corner right now, and you can actually see Sun on the track. The DRS is open, and Ozda to the top with a 1:16.003, a very respectable time there. Books now in the middle of a flyer. And you can very plainly see the sun all across the circuit now. So the track temperature is only going to get nice and warm from here on out. Being in the middle of a lap. Right now, Collie Boy and Boothie are the only two drivers in pit lane. Everyone else is out on circuit. Checker goes up to second, 1:16.142. Whippy is on an outlap right now, as is Prudish Metal. That is Dino, who is now in the middle of a lap. Dino is one of 4 drivers who have yet to set a lap time on a slick tire. Everyone now is equipped in medium tires, which is a very interesting decision to say the least. Oh, and Dino invalidates the lap he's in the middle of. Whippy has already set a lap on the intermediates, but not one on the mediums. Same with Skinny Fishbone, who was invalidated the lap he was in the middle of, but he was up by 8.1 seconds at the end of the line there. Well, 6.3 seconds at the end of the line. Now, Constant Jet. And again, time is running up very quickly. And for Fiend, Prudish Metal, and Books, they can't afford to make mistakes here, because the clock is ticking, and the clock is ticking fast. Right now, it's more of a race to just get a serious lap time in more than anything else. Collie Boy is in the middle of a nut lap. He feels that the 1:18.2 that he set earlier is not going to be good enough. Fiend has invalidated the lap he's in the middle of, and there's 1 minute and 22 seconds left on the clock. Now, he should be able to make it a start-finish line, but that's not going to bode well for him. Prudish Metal goes to the top with a 1:15.913. Higsby. He's down by 2.7 seconds at the end of that lap. Whippy, though, is going to jump up to 5th, 1:16.539. Dino up by 3 seconds at the end of Sector 1 alone, compared to his best lap on the intermediates. Again, there's really only 2 DRS zones here on the circuit, the main straightaway, and then that short straight that comes after the turn 1. When Constant Jet has just gone completely off circuit there. And right now, it's not looking good for Constant Jet because he is on the outside looking at the inside, with Gusty being the driver who is on the bubble. And Gusty is down on time. He is coming into the pits. He is not going to improve. Fiend has yet to set a lap time. He's still in the pits. And with 15 seconds left, he's not going to set a lap time. He will not have a chance to advance. Here comes Dino. He goes up to 5th and has enough for one more shot at it. British Metal is aborting the lap he was in the middle of. Whippy. He's in the middle of a faster lap right now, as is Higsby, so both of the Renaults will probably move up the grid just a little bit. Higsby at the line jumps up into 5th, and Whippy at the line, he is going to jump up into 2nd now. Skinny Fishbone is the driver on the bubble at the moment. Trying to make something happen. To the line. No ERS, but it doesn't matter. He's improved by 12 thousandths. He's got, I hope that's enough. Collie Boy to the line. He has not improved. He is actually slower. So Skinny Fishbone is in. Gusty is out. Constant Jet is out. Collie Boy is out. And Fiend is out. And the driver on top of the timesheets at the end of qualifying session 2 is Prudish Metal. And the interesting thing is, in the end, everyone except Collie Boy set their fastest lap on the mediums. And now you have to wonder what went wrong with Collie Boy that he was not completely unable to set a lap time. What's going on with Dino back there? fuel issue. Okay. A little bit of an issue with the AI trying to figure out who's going to be where. Dino, as he's coming to bring it into the pit lane right now. And that should end our session, but Prudish Metal ends session 2 of qualifying at the top of the timesheets, and now there's just one more session left for the top 10 positions. It's going to be very interesting because everyone in the top 10 will be starting on mediums, so no one's really going to be able to get on an alternate strategy to try and do anything. This could be very, very interesting in some ways, because not necessarily towards the front, but from 11th on back, you might go ahead, jump onto softs or jump onto hards to be on a different tire strategy to try and mess up the drivers ahead of you. So here's your lineup. The 4 drivers who did not make it in are XRL Fiend, Collie Boy, Constant Jet, and XRL Gusty. The drivers who do make it in, though, Skinny Fishbone, the Mercedes, Mr. Anderson, the Ferrari, Boothie, and the Alpha, Dino and the Red Bull, Higsby and the Renault, Books and the Williams, Checker and the Haas, Ozda and the Ferrari, Renault's Whippy, and Prudish Metal and the Alfa Romeo. So only 2 Mercedes-powered cars will advance into qualifying 3, but 5 Ferrari-powered ones advance into qualifying session 3. Both Renault factory drivers advance in, but neither of the McLaren Renault customer teams are able to make it out of qualifying session 1. So very interesting when it comes to dispersion, when it comes to engine allotments. As we now begin to prepare to load onto the circuit for the race for the pole. Seeing movement in the Ferrari team. And there you are. That is Ozda, I believe, who is the first one out, and he is going to be joined right away by his teammate, Mr. Anderson. So the 2 Ferraris trying to jump everyone else, and then right behind them, the 2 Renaults. That is Higsby, who's going to be leading his teammate Whippy, and then farther back in the Alpha team, and there you are. So Prudish actually was able to get out and split the difference between the Renaults and the Ferraris, but Prudish is out on the circuit, and just a little bit behind the Renaults is Boothie. Now we see Dino coming out onto the circuit right now, and that means the 2 Mercedes-powered cars and the Haas of Checker have yet to come out on the circuit. And as I say that, Checker is on his way down the grid right now. For now, Ozda is going to try and set himself up to be the driver to set the first lap of the day, the one that everyone else is going to have to go after. Books is now out on the circuit. Skinny Fishbone is the only car not on track at the moment. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Whippy's going to want Boothie to either get by him or back up, because the 2 of them are way too close. And there we are. Boothie's backing up this a little bit now as they're entering Sector 3. But here comes Ozda as he begins his flyer lap, and we are now seeing Skinny Fishbone beginning to run down pit lane to get a lap going. Ten minutes left in the session. Relatively quick lap times around here, so the fact that Ozda and Mr. Anderson didn't waste any time to get to the line might come back and help them out a bit if they feel they need to get on track and set faster laps later in the session. Skinny Fishbone pulls over completely there, just past turn 1 to let other drivers pass, so he has more room ahead of him, and they do not have to worry about him causing them issues. As we continue to watch Ozda, far left till the end of Sector 2. Nice and smooth through there, 53.320 at the end of Sector 2. Now he just has 2 more corners left. that final corner, the DRS pops open, and at the line, 114.745. He will be joined by his teammate, Mr. Anderson, who sets a 115.390. Now it's time for the Alphas. Prudish splits the difference, 114.771. Now it comes down to Higsby. He's invalidated the lap he was in the middle of, but Whippy is not going to have to worry about that at the line. Whippy goes up to third, and now fourth as Boothie jumps him. Now Dino jumps both of them as well. Checker has invalidated the lap he was in the middle of, as has Books. Higsby is in the middle of another lap right now, as Checker has brought it into the pit lane, as he's going to try and set up for another one. Skinny Fishbone also in the middle of the lap. Higsby is going to run the risk of potentially catching Prudish Metal in the middle of his second attempt right now. Coming down to the exit, Sector 2, 53.878. Ozda goes even faster, 114.591. But his teammate, Mr. Anderson, is going to bring it into the pit lane now. And here we are at the line. Higsby will finally set a lap time. It's good enough for 7th, 115.669. Books in the middle of a lap as we speak, as is Skinny Fish. Skinny Fishbone has invalidated the lap that he was trying for. Trying to get everything set up for another go at it. He's recharged the ERS completely here. Books, 53.242 at the end of Sector 2. So he's going to try and be the 8th driver to set a lap time in the session. The gap from 1st to 7th right now is only a little bit more than 1.1 seconds, and we could probably see that drop. Now that final corner, the DRS pops open. Book sets a time of 114.947. It's good enough for 5th at the moment. Checker is still in the pits. Skinny Fishbone going for another attempt now. There are other cars out on the circuit. Ozda is currently in the middle of a cooldown lap. Prudish Metal, I believe, is doing the same, as will Higsby. Oh no, Prudish is actually going to keep it going. So Prudish thinks that he can improve on this lap. Right now, he's about 1800ths off from Ozda's time. He's down on time, though, by nearly 500ths at the line. Here comes Skinny Fishbone. Ahead of him on track is Boothie. But Boothie is making the run down onto pit lane. So coming out of that final corner, Skinny Fishbone will be the 9th driver to set a time in the session. The DRS pops open. What will it be? 115.450. Checker's back on an outlap right now. He's the only driver who has yet to set a time in the session. We're seeing a Ferrari that is Mr. Anderson, who's already back out on the circuit, trying to go for another one. Ozda is also on his way down pit lane right now, so the two Ferraris, being the first two to get on the circuit, are really going to be helped by the fact that they will not have to worry too much about time. There's still 4 minutes and 48 seconds left in the session, so they can go as long as they want right now. There's at least a good 3 laps that they might be able to set if they so choose to abuse the tires that far. Checker got a little bit of a draft from Whippy going down the main straightaway as he began his flyer lap. Oh, and Skinny Fishbone has retired from the session in the pit lane. So he seems to think that the 115.450 is the best that they can get, and he is not going to attempt to go faster. Very interesting decision, to say the least. Checker is still right there behind Whippy right now. Mind you, Whippy is also on a flyer lap. So Checker, not really anything he can do about it, but he might end up getting a draft and a drag off of Whippy on the straights, and that might make Checker's lap time a lot faster than it normally would be. Whippy aborts the lap he was in the middle of. Checker lays onto the DRS and ERS at the line. 1:15.172, that's good enough for 7th. Boothie is now out onto the circuit in the middle of another lap. 3 minutes, 18 seconds left. Mr. Anderson has invalidated the lap he's in the middle of, and Ozez just had an incident there. Ozez had an accident in Sector 2. For now, Ozzy has the fastest lap on the circuit. He's going to have to hope that will hold, because with less than 3 minutes left in the session, he's going to have to get around the track, get into the pits, change lane. I don't see any way they can do all that and get on the circuit and set another lap. He's going to have to hope that his 1:14.591 will hold. Brutish Metal is out on track right now trying to improve, and Boothie is in the middle of a lap that he's already up by 2/10 on. Around the final corner, Boothie has shown some amazing qualifying prowess before. Up into second now, 1:14.661. Brutish Metal is now beginning a flyer lap, so the Alphas are striking hard and striking late. Will it be enough to get them over Ozza's time? Dino is in the pits right now. He is now out in the middle of an out lap. With 1 minute and 49 seconds left, Dino will have enough time for one serious lap. British Metal was up by 41 thousandths at the end of Sector 1. Dino, Books, and Whippy are all on out laps right now. Mr. Anderson retires from the session in the pits. He feels there's no need to continue pushing. He can't improve, he thinks. Checker has had an instant. He pulls over. British Metal up by nearly 2/10. He might be close enough to snatch pole from Mazda. It's going to be extremely close. Out of the final corner, DRS pops up at the line. British Metal goes to the top, 1:14.404. He found a chunk of extra time in the last corner alone. So British Metal to the top. Boothie going for another lap now. Dino going very slow, trying to get the Williams of Books around him. The thing is, did Dino go so slow that he's not going to make it to the line in time? That's going to be the question. Books will make it to the line in time to start one flyer lap. Dino will as well. What about Checker? It won't matter. He is pulling it into the pit lane. So the drivers who are currently in the middle of laps are the only drivers we are going to see turn time. British Metal is pulled over completely. As we look at the clock, Boothie has invalidated his time, and that is bad for him because time's up. Over. Plow. Higsby and Whippy are both in the middle of the lap, so Higsby is down by 3/10. Whippy is up by 2/10 though. One last corner for your points leader. Trying to lock up the driver's title in today's race. He comes to the line. It's only good enough for 6, 1:14.983. Books is up by 15 hundredths at the end of Sector 2. He may have it in him to jump into row 2 here. Dino has invalidated the lap he was in the middle of, so Books is the only wild card left on the track right now. The DRS pops open at the line. Books jumps up in the fourth, 114.699. And that means that the qualifying session is over because Dino retires from the lap he was in the middle of, and the driver on top of the timesheets at the end of qualifying session 3, the one who will start on the pole, will be Prudish Metal, alongside XRL Ozda, and then right behind Prudish Metal will be his teammate Boothie. And Books is going to start in fourth. So the session is now over, and we will have to wait about 5 minutes or so until we get into the race itself. There is your top 10, and quite a spread in times, actually. Over a second between first and 10th alone. But yep, we're going to stand by for about 5 minutes until we get the race underway itself. So while we do that, we'll go ahead and take a nice quick look at the point standings as they are right now for X3. So first we'll look at the Manufacturers Championship. Normally we'll look at Drivers Championship first. We'll look at Manufacturers Championship first. In 10th is Scuderia AlphaTauri. They have 20 points. In 9th is Mercedes. They have 43. Williams in 8th has 77. Racing Point has 93 in 7th. Alfa Romeo in 6th, they have 100 even. Haas is 5th in the team championship. They have 106 points. They are tied with Red Bull, who also has 106 points. Ferrari has been slipping a bit. They have fallen to 148 points. In the McLaren team, they only have 166 points, and the Renault team has 212 points. Most of that off the back of Whippy having some outright amazing runs, 4 straight victories in a row. And we look real quickly at the Drivers' Championship. Unarmed Drake and Higsby still have yet to earn points. Fiend has a single point. Constant Jet has 2 points. Fratters, Dave Ewart, and Collie Boy are all tied for 13th, 14th, and 15th position with 3 points each. Then you make a massive jump forward. Gusty has 21 points. He has 12. Boothie in 11th has 25 points. Prudish Metal in 10th has 30 points. Tassani has 36 points. In 9th, he is just 2 off of Mufasa with 38, who is just 1 point off of his teammate, Books, in 7th. Then Mr. Anderson has 44 points in the Ferrari. 5th in the Drivers' Championship is Schold with 52 points. Retro XC has 86 points. Dino is now setting himself up to potentially take second in the Drivers' Championship. He has 91 points. And then Ozda is second with 102 points. He has basically been stuck there for several races, while Whippy has opened up a 93-point gap on the rest of the field. Whippy has 195 points at this point in the championship, and we are looking at a very high likelihood that he's going to lock up the title. But for me at least, the most impressive and stunning thing about this is that we have not seen very much parity this season. A lot of drivers have just left points on the table. We are relatively late in the season, 11 races in, and only 2 drivers have more than 100 points. And those 2 drivers who have more than 100 points earned more than 100 points very early in the season within 7 races. So it's become a runaway between 2 drivers, and then even beyond that, one of them is now stuttering and is still locking up second position. So it's a very interesting scenario when we're looking at the Drivers' Championship this season, and there are a lot of interesting fights farther down the order, but a lot of them don't have a lot of points already locked up. So this is a very interesting set of circumstances right now when it comes to the Drivers' Championship. But for now, we're going to stand by and just wait until the race itself gets underway here today. Alright, just stand by right now until we get the race properly underway here. Just standing by until we get the race itself underway, waiting on word to see how long it will take before we can go green here. And we should be going green very shortly. Fiend has readied up before everyone else. Now British Metal readies up, and we should start seeing the rest of the drivers readying up, and we'll be underway with the race very shortly. Hopefully nothing will happen like what we saw at Spa when drivers kept readying up too early and causing incidents. 3 race attempts at the start at Spa. It was an absolute mess, to say the least. The race itself was relatively fine, but it was a very, very chaotic race for just trying to get started. Once it got underway, it wasn't too bad, though. And here we are on the track itself. 4 lights, 5 lights, and it's lights out, and away we go here. Right off the bat, the Williams, the Books just did not get going whatsoever, and he's a little bit slow and gobbled up by everyone at the line. But look at this battle for a lead. Ozda on the inside. He's going to get split by the 2 Alphas, and both Alphas are going to get by him. Here's side by side for lead positions now between the 2 Alfa Romeos. Neither of them seem to be giving up quite yet. And the round on the outside is British Metal. He's going to get it. British Metal is going to take the top spot now. And there are instances farther back in the field. You can see Schuld has fallen all the way back, and there's a virtual safety car as a bunch of drivers have lost their front wings already. Collie Boy has a time penalty for hitting Fratters. Whippy jumps up into 4th position. Ozda falls to 3rd. Ooh, and this is not looking good whatsoever. Tassani just rear-ended Fiend. Fiend was at pretty much complete dead stop in the middle of the racetrack, and then Tassani jumped on the gas and just ran right into him. A lot of penalties, and we're going to probably see a lot of drivers coming into the pits. Interesting note, Retro Rixie jumps up into 11th from a 15th starting position, and Constant Jet is starting on the hard tire compounds. Collie Boy started on the softs, Dave Ewart started on the softs, Tassani started on the hards. We're already back under green here, not even a full lap under the virtual safety car. But Higsby is coming to the pits, as has Dave Ewart, Scholl. A bunch of drivers have come into the pits, but at the front, it is British Metal. As Boothie is holding on to 2nd, but is already dropping away. And Ozda has their championship points leader and his rival, Whippy, right behind him, trying to make something happen now. Look at this battle way farther back in the grid. Tassani completely off circuit. He is still suffering from wing damage. He has lost positions to both Dave Ewart and Schuld. Meanwhile, a little bit farther back in the grid, this is in 12th. Constant Jet behind Retrixie, who's being held up by Dino. Constant Jet on the hard tire compounds. Everyone ahead of him on mediums. So Constant Jet knows that if he can just stay within DRS range of the cars ahead, he should be in a good position to make up some ground as this race goes on. Look at Retro, shoots it up the inside of Dino, but ends up stepping way wide, and he was going to have to give that position back to the Red Bull, but that brings Constant Jet right up behind them now. And Dino is coming into the pits. There must be something wrong with Dino's car. That means Retro will inherit 10th, and Constant Jet now goes up into 11th. Just outside the points-paying positions. Checker in the back of what's going to likely become a massive DRS train. He is hanging out behind Books, who is hanging out behind Whippy, who is hanging out behind Ozda, who is hanging out behind Boothie, who is hanging out behind Brutish Metal, who is your current race leader. So the top 7 are all separated by gaps of less than a second to the driver ahead of them right now. Mr. Anderson is more than likely going to fall off the back of this train, though. He does not seem to have quite the pace to keep up with the drivers ahead throughout parts of the circuit. And then we have another kind of train that forms from Skinny Fishbone, who is being followed by Gusty, a little bit of a gap, and then Retro XC is holding up Constant Jet, who is holding up Mufasa, who is holding up XRL Fiend. On board with Books, as he runs behind Whippy. Oh, and Mufasa and Constant Jet have just gone side by side. They're still side by side, but it looks like Mufasa, yes, he's going to finally plant himself ahead of the tracing point. And the hard tires are not working out well for Constant Jet early in the session, as he has fallen off the back of Retro Rixie, lost the position to the Williams ahead, and now has to hold off Fiend. Fiend trying to do something to close up to the front of the field right now. Retrixie has now closed in on Gusty. Whippy now has a time penalty for track violations. Here we are. Fiend just overtakes Constant Jet because on the exit of the corners, the mediums are so much faster than the hards that there's nothing you can do to fight back on the hard tire compounds. So starting on the hards may not have been the ideal way to go in this race. Gusty has caught. Oh, and there's a yellow flag, and that is Dave Ewart, who has had an instant, has gone wide. He's already come back on the circuit, and he's going to fall back to 16th position on the soft tire compounds, so there's likely going to be some damage to the tires. It's going to be very hard for him to get properly going, but he has completely lost grip with the points paying position. Karzane goes around again and nails it right to the inside wall, and that's going to end his race and bring out a full course safety car. And Dave Ewart in the McLaren is now out of the race, and the first yellow flag of the day is out. Well, the first full course yellow flag of the day is out. And we'll reach out to Dave Ewart and see if he wants to share what happened with him, but it's not been a good run from the McLarens today, to say the least. And this is going to be great for drivers like Collie Boy, Fratters, Tassani. They all were at the risk of potentially going a lap down as the race went on. They will have a chance to catch up. Coming into the party right now with us is Dave Ewart. Dave, go ahead and include your audio. What happened that took you out of the race?
I spun midway through the lap and was just trying to get my tyres warmed back up and just went round the corner. So still waiting.
Well, he leaves the party almost as short in the middle of his explanation. We're going to try and get him back in here one more time. Kind of a shame there. We apologize for that. We don't know if he'll be able to jump in properly with us or not. Here we are, coming back into the party as Dave Ewart. Yeah, go ahead. What were you saying? You spun and you were trying to get the tires warmed up, and then what? Alright, it's a shame. Now all the points that your team can earn are left with Retrixie. Do you think he has a chance to make it farther up the grid? Alright, it's a shame to see you out so early. Cheers to you too. Alright, so here we are under the full course safety car. It's going to probably be several laps of this full course safety car because Tassani hasn't even begun his next lap yet, and the rest of the field is already in the middle of Sector 2. A lot of this circuit is slow and middle speed corners, and the speed difference between the slow and middle speed corner in race 2 under yellow is not very massive. Most of the difference will be made up in high speed corners or straightaways, and there's not a lot of them there. Now we are seeing that is Skinny Fishbone, who has properly just caught the back of the grid, and Dino should be also catching the rear of the field very shortly here. But I imagine at the rate we're going, we shouldn't even see the green until we get to lap 8 right now. But again, this is great news for the drivers in the back of the field. The entire grid completely spread out early on, at least in the back, because of incidents early on. Drivers had to come in, pit, swap damaged tires and damaged front wings. That shouldn't be an issue now. Higsby has caught back up into the 16th position. He was one of the drivers who was relatively high up in the grid, who was involved in those incidents early on. He is now, maybe has a chance of catching back into the points paying position. Fratters a little bit farther back on the track, but he is 17th. He's going to have one more chance to make it up through the grid along with his teammate Skinny Fishbone, who also had a top 10 starting spot but ended up losing it. Right on board Fratters, you can see the cars ahead. That is Higsby who is ahead. He lets off the throttle nice and early so he doesn't end up causing an incident. Catching up to the back of the grid. Collie Boy just behind Fratters will do the same, and now it's just a matter of Tasani, who is your 19th place driver, so the field should be all properly gathered up. Coming into turn 2, as Tasani gets to turn 2. Alright, it took a little bit longer than anticipated. But now we turn our focus to the driver. So Mr. Anderson all the way up to Prudish Metal have all been very, very close to each other under the green flag conditions. DRS will not be enabled for 2 laps on the restart. So any overtakes that will happen coming to the green going into turns 1 and turn 2 will be 100% driver ability. And I'm going to be 100% honest, I don't see anyone actually being able to make moves and jump the order, and Fratters has had an incident. Fratters has just had an incident. I don't know if he spun out or hit somebody else or what, but he has now plummeted to last place position. One of the drivers on the hard tire compounds, one of the other drivers, this helps a lot, is Constant Jet. He was falling through the field very slowly. Now this will help gather him back up. As long as he doesn't lose grip with the cars ahead of him, he will be in a good position coming through the race. He might be able to hold on with DRS and really make good use of those hard tire compounds to get into the points. But it's the 2 alphas of Prudish Metal and Boothie at the top of the grid right now. We're going to try and make something happen. Pace car is coming to the pit lane, and everyone's going to go off of Prudish Metal's call. They're right on board with Checker as they come to the green flag here. Oh! And that's your points leader! And your points leader has just had an incident! And the field is scrambling! And your points leader, XRL Whippy, has just spun out, coming to the green flag! And this is perfect for us that he may be able to make that infinitesimally small chance of fighting for the championship alive once more as Whippy has crashed out. Now Mr. Anderson has an incident. He is spun out, coming out of turn 1, and has fallen out of the points paying positions. He has massive front wing damage. And that is Williams, that is Books, who has no front wing as well. Books was right there as Whippy spun right across his nose, ripped off the entire front wing of the Williams, and now Collie Boy runs right into the back of him. Look at, oh Jesus Christ. And now Fratters is trying to make up ground. In the process, Books is now going to lose the position, and Tasani, I imagine, Mr. Anderson all the way to 18th, but Prudish Metal has walked off with the lead. And your points leader, XRL Whippy, 4 straight races of victories in a row. He will not make it 5. We're going to try and reach out to Whippy here and see what happened from his perspective. The top 2 have broken away from the field here. Here comes Retroxys. He's trying to make a charge against Gusty here. Mufasa is there as well. There's Fiend. He's there as well. Gusty is apparently disconnected and might lose positions because the AI is typically slower than the driver. Mufasa looking to make something happen. Oh, and Fiend has to go completely off circuit to avoid hitting Gusty. Trying to make something happen. Mufasa is by Gusty. Dino squeaks by Skinny Fishbone farther back in the grid. As Fiend trying to get by Gusty here, he looks to the outside. He's done it. Oh, and Constant Jet has had an incident. And he is now falling back out of the points paying positions once more. Boothie has fallen off of his teammate just a bit, and Ozda is actually closed in. But real quickly, I'm going to try once more to get Whippy in here and see what happened to him from his own perspective. It looked like he put the power down and the rear end just went right around on him. Gusty and Dino, this may be the chance. Dino looks to the outside, can't do anything, and Gusty, because he's not properly connected, is... Well, Gusty's properly connected now, but he's bunched up the entire field from 8th to 12th right behind him. One mistake by any of these drivers and it will become a legit feeding frenzy. Schold right there on the rear end of Dino. These are for points paying positions. Well, some of these are points paying positions. But a battle from 8th to 11th, 12th right now, actually. And there is a chance that even Fratters might be able to close in on the battle. Bigsby right here behind Skinny Fishbone. Skinny Fishbone on the hard tire compounds. Everyone else in this battle on medium. And Skinny's tires are very fresh hards compared to everyone else's as well. Here we are, Dino. He's got the DRS open. He's right underneath Gusty. He looks to the inside. They're going to be neck and neck for the position. And Dino easily will clear Gusty in the braking zone. Now Gusty's going to try and fight back on the next straightaway. But he does not have DRS. Dino still does. Ooh, but Dino didn't have a good run through turns 2 and 3 there. He's ahead of Gusty. Oh, wow, and that is Checker. And Checker has completely gone around there in Sector 2. And that will drop him out of the top 6. Now he falls all the way down to 12th. Oh, and that's Schold. And Schold is at a spin trying to avoid Checker. And now Schold is going to fall out of the points, out of contention for the points paying positions. Excuse me. So now Fratters is going to close in on Checker just a bit. And Checker is out of the points paying positions. Higsby is 10th now. And Skinny Fishbone is 8th. And here's another battle that might happen here. Fiend, Mufasa, and Retro are all on top of each other. And that is a Ferrari. That's Mr. Anderson, who's had another instant there in Sector 2. Now, it looks like it's just a spin and not going to be an issue beyond that, as Mufasa and Retro Ixie having a run down the line. Retro started 15th and is making and cutting his way up through the grid, but he has to be very careful because Fiend is right there. Ooh, Retro, big mistake. Fiend cut the corner just a bit, and he's gone around on the outside, but he don't think he's going to be able to make it stick. Fiend gets a time penalty, and is going to have to let Retro by. There is an instant there in turn 1. That is Collie Boy. He has had an accident and has ripped off a chunk of the front wing. And now he is going to be at the risk of going a lap down. But here's another interesting thing. Boothie is closed in on Pushmoto and is bringing Ozda with him. So the two Alphas and then the Ferrari of Ozda are definitely on a pace all on their own. As Retro has DRS and is looking to do something to Mufasa on the outside. Still side by side, neck and neck, and Retro is gonna get him. Ozda, time penalty for track violations. As you can see, right on board Fiend, Mufasa and Retro continuing to go at it. Hollyboy completely pulls off circuit so as not to hinder the top 3 cars. Fiend's close right up into Mufasa and runs right into his rear. And something has happened to Ozda. He has completely fallen off for the top 2 all of a sudden. He is now 3 seconds off of your leaders. Meanwhile, Higsby has caught Skinny Fishbone, and Skinny Fishbone has Gusty ahead of him. With a small DRS train, the Skinny Fishbone having to deal with a very aggressively weaving Gusty. Here we are, the Mercedes commits to the outside line. Contact. And now Higsby is going to overtake both of them. So Skinny Fishbone and Gusty were fighting so hard that Higsby was able to jump into the top 10. So Higsby, in a very interesting scenario, is now the only Renault in points-paying positions. Skinny Fishbone has Gusty overtaking him very clearly, and now Checker is going to try and do the same thing. There is significant wing damage on Skinny Fishbone's machine. Meanwhile, farther up the grid, Fiend has just lost 6 to Dino. The 2 Red Bulls running in almost the exact same spot, but Dino has gotten up here on pace because he pitted after early lap damage, and now he has worked his way up into the 6th position and is going to try and start working on Mufasa ahead. Mufasa has completely lost touch with the Retro Rixie, though. Here we are. Skinny Fishbone is finally in the pits to repair the damage. Gusty in 10th and Checker in 9th. This will be a battle for points-paying positions. Medium tires truly have been the ideal thing. No one has been able to make the hards work. Everyone on the hard tire compounds outside of the points-paying positions, and even when they end up inheriting points-paying positions from drivers ahead having accidents, they just gradually lose it as it goes on, and Prudish Metal has decided to come into the pit on lap 16. A early pit choice, and I have to wonder what he's doing. He is playing on hards. So Prudish Metal going from medium tire compounds to hards, and now Checker is coming in the pits, and he might try and do the exact same thing. But the hards have been completely incapable of competing with the medium tires here, and I have to wonder if drivers might just try and stretch the mediums out until lap 20 and then jump onto softs until the race end. But now Prudish Metal is caught in the middle of the field with Higsby ahead of him. Trixie, a time penalty for track violations. Dino right there behind Mufasa now. Reminder, Dino has fresher mediums than everyone else around him on track. So he can go a little bit longer, and he absolutely could probably make a choice to jump onto softs very late in this event. Oh, and Collie Boy, another instant for Collie Boy. Same area as before, an accident around turn 1. Dino pops open that DRS as he's trying to close in on Mufasa down the straight. Looks to the outside, pulls alongside, going through turn 1. What can Mufasa do to fight back? Nothing. Fiend and Gusty are both pitting. And Dino now continues his march up the order. He is in 4th position. Retro, starting 15th, has worked his way up into 3rd. All it would take for Retro is some mistakes by the top drivers and Prudish Metal, and then Retro might honestly walk out of here with a possible win. And Mufasa's had an accident! We're trying to see where he is on track, but that is a full virtual safety car. And this car is destroyed. The nose wedged underneath the barrier. Boothy, Ozda both coming in the pits, but Ozda gets a penalty for speeding in pit lane. He's not going to be able to serve it now. Ozda equips the hard tire compounds. Boothy is going to do the same. Retro is in pits. He is equipping hards as well. Dino also equips hards, so everyone is equipping hards. Higsby is staying out on circuit for a little bit. And Higsby will actually overtake Dino on the racetrack. But now we're going to go ahead and reach out to Mufasa and see if we can hear what happened from his perspective. Fratter is a drive-through penalty for speeding under a virtual safety car. DRS has been re-enabled, and we look at the penalties. This is not looking good. Ozda, 8 seconds of time penalties. Fratter's with the drive-through. Tasani, 8 seconds of penalties as well. So things are not looking very good for many drivers here. Dino looks to be the biggest gain, and Higsby is disconnected. Higsby didn't pit because for whatever reason Higsby's been disconnected. The AI is driving the car, and that's why Fratters and Dino have closed in on him, trying to overtake Higsby now. Gusty gets a time penalty for track violations. Dino works it on the inside of Fratters. Can't keep it together though. But both of these cars should be able to get by the Renault of Higsby on the straight. Fratters puts the wing to Higsby, trying to use the chrome horn. Now Dino looks on the outside. They're all going to be faster than Higsby down the straight. Brutish Metal is what? British Metal has fallen all the way down. Wow, look at Dino making it 3 wide with the AI. And they both, Fratters and Dino, have DRS on each other. But it's going to be Fratters who's going to hold the spot ahead, but it's not going to matter for Dino because Fratters has a drive-through penalty he has to serve. British Metal has fallen behind Ozda, and Boothy has now taken the race lead. Dino still fighting aggressively with Fratters. They're side by side for 3-4 corners straight now. And Fratters just went completely off circuit there. It's not going to help. And now, Constant Jet is closing out on Higsby. Dino, Fratters continuing to fight. I don't think Dino realizes Fratters is a drive-through that needs to be served. Dino finally gets ahead of Fratters. And will Fratters serve his drive-through? Now. Constant Jet is going to get around to Higsby as Higsby is finally going to make the pit stop. Now the question is, what will Higsby's team equip? And the answer is hards. Fiend has overtaken Tasani at the end of the straight. Ozda is actually closing in slowly on Boothy, and Brutish Metal is falling off slowly from Ozda. Not been able to get any word from Mufasa as to what happened to take him out of the race. Oh, and the race leader! Your race leader, Boofy, has just had an accident. The race leader has just crashed out of the race. And we are under another virtual safety car. And Boofy has just crashed out of the race lead. What in the world? What in the world? Okay, well, that's extremely weird. We're under another virtual safety car, and now this is going to be great for Prudish Metal. He has no time penalties against him right now. The drivers ahead and behind him do, though, so Prudish Metal might still walk out here with the win. If the game doesn't decide to just give him, and Collie Boy's been given a drive-through for speeding under the virtual safety car now. Constant Jet and Tasani both jumped into the pits during that yellow. And Prudish Metal looks like he's going to be well on the way to winning the race. Because Ozzy has 8 seconds of penalties against him right now. Gonna try and reach out to Boothie to see what happened. But now the field has become relatively nice and spread out, with the exception of Schold and Higsby, because Higsby still is not properly connected with his car. He is out of the points-paying positions right now, and Schold is trying to make something happen. Oh, look at this lunge! He made a lunge, he made a lunge, he made a lunge, and could not make it stick, though. Oh, and there comes Mr. Anderson to capitalize. And now it's Mr. Anderson's turn to take a shot at Higsby. Mr. Anderson touches the dirt, and now Schold rockets back up, but he can't get alongside him. Here we are, coming in the broadcast booth with us right now is Boothie. Boothie, go ahead and include your audio. You were leading. You had the race win in the bag. What happened there?
I was struck in the middle of that bought a curve and it just slid into the barrier about 2 miles an hour. It wouldn't even knock a wheel. It knocked a wheel off. Well, not sure what it did, but it shouldn't have done as much damage as it did anyway.
Alright, oh wow, Schold with a humongous dive on Mr. Anderson and Higsby. I'm sorry about that to cut you off. No, it's a shame. Out of curiosity, do you think your teammate Prudish Metal still has a chance to take home the victory here, though?
Not unless Asda crashes more. He seems to be getting away from him.
Alright.
Yeah.
It's a shame to see another DNF from you, Boothie. Great in qualifying, struggling in race pace. Hopefully, you can get turned around before the season comes to an end.
Yeah, hopefully.
Alright, thanks for sharing your experience. And that's the word from Boothie, who has crashed out of your race lead. Constant Jet is now slid by Higsby. And now it's Tasani's turn to try and make something happen. Farther up the grid, though, here's a battle to watch. Books has caught Fratters on tires that he has had equipped on that car since an early race incident, while Books is on tires that he's been running since about lap 10. So Books on much fresher hards. He's got the DRS. He goes to the outside. Neck and neck. These are for points-paying positions here. And Books gets pushed off track by Fratters. He doesn't care. He's going to fight back on the next straightaway. They're still side by side. And the spot is going to go, for now at least, I can't tell because they're still really aggressive. And Fratters gets a time penalty having to run side by side with Books for so long. But Books is now ahead of Fratters. Mr. Anderson, still there behind Schold. Going to try and see if he can get by him. If Mr. Anderson can get by Schold, then something happens to the top 10. But considering how nutty this race has been, that seems like it could absolutely happen. Mr. Anderson would be back in the points-paying positions. No one has equipped soft tires to the end of the race, which is honestly what shocks me. But I imagine that Books or Fratters might go ahead, toss on sauce, and try and get not only fastest lap of the race, but trying to pick up some extra spots as a result from that. And Collie Boy has had an incident again. He pulls off the track completely, and there is front wing damage once more on the AlphaTauri. So he's coming into the pits now. Brutish Metal just needs to stay within 8 seconds of Ozda, but he is losing ground, and Retro is actually closing in. Gusty, another time penalty for track violations. And Mr. Anderson has just lost his position to Constant Jet now. So both Racing Points are trying to move up the order, but for now at least, there's still 8 seconds or more out from the points paying position. Schold, another time penalty as well. Now the thing is, Fratters is going to have to pit and get off those hards, I imagine. He has done one tire change in the race, so he might, in theory, be able to make the hards last to the end, but he's going to hemorrhage time in the last few laps. Constant Jet behind his teammate Schold. Constant Jet on medium, Schold on hards. So Constant's going to be way faster than his teammate. Constant Jet, Mr. Anderson is coming into the pits. And here are Constant Jet with a humongous run. He looks to the inside. Schold completely fails executing the corner, but he has a good exit at least. Constant Jet trying still to do something to his teammate. Can't seem to make it stick, though. Farther up the grid, this is going to be a really interesting battle because Retro Rixie has caught Brutish Metal. He will have DRS on him down the straight. Retro going to try and come back from a 15th place starting position to potentially win the race. He looks to the outside. He's ahead. So Retro sails into the spot, and Brutish gets really sideways, loses part of the front wing. And Retro uses the DRS to get even farther away. Oh, and Mr. Anderson has had an accident. And that's his teammate Ozda in the race lead, who is coming up as well. So Ozda's going to want his teammate to get out of the way as soon as possible. Ozda can see his teammate up there. Oh, and Constant Jet has just overtaken Schold at the end of the straight. And Tassani is now closed in on the battle, and Tassani is also on the medium tires. And Collie Boy, no, that's not Collie Boy, that's Gusty. Gusty has had an incident and has just fallen out of the top 8. He's now down to 9th, and Fratters is closing in. And Tassani, meanwhile, has caught Schold. Gonna have to figure out a way to get by him and do it fast. Fratters is pitting now the 10th position. That will give Constant Jet and put him back in the points-paying spots. And Tassani is close enough to potentially overtake both of them. He's got DRS on Schold, but Schold has DRS on his teammate, even though Constant Jet is running away from him. So for now, Tassani can't really do anything. Mr. Anderson has just turned the fastest lap, 1:17.478. as Checker gets another penalty for track violations. Right now, Pruish-Metal and Dino are looking to be in a good position because those two, plus Mr. Anderson, are the only drivers who do not have time penalties against him. As we look at the time penalties right now, Ozda has 8 seconds of time penalties against him. Retro Rixie has 6 seconds of time penalties against himself. So as it stands right now, Ozda would win the race, but Retro, if he can close in to 2 seconds of Ozda, he would steal that victory, assuming neither of the top two get additional penalties. And then everyone from 5th on back have penalties, but no one has more than 6 at the moment. And here's Mr. Anderson. He has caught Higsby once more. Higsby's still not properly connected. The sky over the track is starting to get dark. Rain's not predicted to the end of the race, but it could be something that could wreak havoc in the race. And Dasani and Schold have just swapped positions. Dasani easily clears Schold down the straight. And now he will put his focus on Constant Jet. Fratters, as I predicted earlier, he jumped onto the softs and will likely run the softs to the end. He's 17.3 seconds out from Schold right now. I think Fratters has no chance of seriously getting into the points-paying positions unless some more crazy stuff happens. Collie Boy 2 laps down to Higsby right now, and Higsby's still disconnected. It's been a very, very rough day for those two. And then the big takeaway, your points leader, Whippy, was coming into this race looking to mathematically lock up the championship today. He crashes out in the first 10 laps and will not walk out of here with a single point. While his rival in the championship, Ozda, currently might walk out of here with 25 points with a win. And Ozda has had an accident! And Ozda, your race leader, has had an accident! Again, that's twice that we've seen an accident from the race leader. And now it's Retro who inherits the race lead. Brutish Metal goes up into second, but British Metal is nursing wing damage, so Retro Rixie now has the race lead. And Retro might be able to come back from a 15th place starting spot and a crash in qualifying session 1 to win the race. And Ozda, the championship might still be out of his hand because he has to pit late and will hemorrhage positions. What is this race? How? This race was ungodly boring last season. And now there's so much crap going on, I can barely keep up with it all. Well, Retro Rixie is now on the way to finally winning a race this season by the looks of it. Had some good runs early on this season get taken away from him. So Retro might still be able to walk out of the season with a win in the McLaren. Goes around the outside of Higsby. Well, now, the field is very much spread out across the entire order now. Ozda has fallen from the lead to 8th position. Sky is getting extremely dark overhead. And I'm just going to go ahead and say I have to wonder if rain might fall late in this event, considering how dark the sky has become late in the race. For about 4 2/3 of a lap to go, though. 4 laps and then 2/3 of another lap to go. So even if rain was to start falling, I don't think it would get wet enough to cause issues. Meanwhile, farther back, this will be for points. Tassani is 11th and Constant Jet is 10th. And Tassani is close enough to get DRS on the tracing point ahead. Closing in on the straight. Constant Jet very, very good run through the center of the corner. And he's going to use that to stay ahead of Tassani. And Tassani uses the DRS to stay within striking distance, but not really able to do anything at the moment. Ozda, meanwhile, has caught Books and is looking to try and get by him as quick as possible. Way faster than the Williams on a straight. Dives to the inside, can't complete the pass. He's going to have to just wait until he gets DRS on the main straight, I imagine. Tassani still there behind Constant Jet. Going to try and get him on the main straight this time now, as Ozda easily clears Books before they're even halfway down the main straight. Tassani a little bit closer to Constant Jet this time than last time. Constant Jet had a better run, gained the power down, as actually pulls away from Tassani just a bit. Tassani completely botched his turn 1. So Constant Jet's going to hold on to 10th for a little bit longer. So now here's the circumstance. I said Retro is going to win this race, but it's still very much up in the air because he's only 5.6 seconds ahead of Prudish Metal, and Retro has 6 seconds of time penalty. So this is still very much a race to the end. Prudish Metal, if he can just not make a mistake and he can stay within 6 seconds, could still steal the victory from Retro Rixie. But he's losing time every lap, and I think in the end he's going to be just 2 or 3 tenths too far from Retro to make it happen. The wing damage has played havoc on him today. Meanwhile, back to this fight between Tassani and Constant Jet. As again, Tassani closes in. Constant Jet's been a bit better getting on the main straight. Tassani better than Constant Jet, and he has the DRS. Both drivers lean into ERS, and Tassani not able to close in to Constant Jet enough on the straight, but he closes in under brake, and Constant Jet better putting the power down, though. Tassani is still right there. Can't do anything, though. And those are really the only 2 true overtaking spots on the track. Rain into turn 1 and rain into turn 2. So unless Constant Jet makes a mistake, he just needs to keep doing a good enough run, putting the power down to those straights, and he should be able to outdo anything that the rest of the field can try. It's raining! It's raining! It's on the next to last lap, and it has started raining! It's a very light rain. It's a very, very light sprinkle. British Metal is now more than 6.5 seconds out from Retro. So yeah, Retro is going to win this race. But rain has suddenly begun falling in the last moments of the race. Now, how heavy is the rain going to be? Will it cause an incident for a driver anywhere in the grid? Oh, and Tassani has had an incident. Tassani has gone off and has now fallen to 12th. And you can see the rain on the onboards. The track is wettening up now on the last lap. There's no point, no reason to come in to swap tires. Because if you swap tires, you're going to lose humongous amounts of positions. But the track is getting extremely wet, extremely fast. As if this race couldn't get bizarro enough, we have rain in the last 2 laps. The white flag is out, and Retro Rixie has taken it. And Retro going to... I said before the race, I didn't say it in the broadcast, but I said I don't think anyone outside the top 2 could win this race. Boothie crashed out. Ozda crashed out. British Metal has been the only guy who's kind of been in a good position, but he's just not had pace compared to the drivers ahead. Books was involved in an incident. So, yeah, I was completely wrong. A driver from 15th is going to walk off with the win here assuming nothing happens. The track is getting wet, though. But Retro has 7.3 seconds over British Metal, realistically 1.3 because of the time penalties. But I think Retro can walk out here with this win. Gusty has pulled it into the pits, and he does it extremely late. Gusty is going to fall out of the points paying positions. So that means both of the tracing points will walk out here with points. Gusty is playing on softs to try and go for fastest lap late in the race, but I don't think that's a good idea because the track is becoming wet. Gusty out of the top 10, he's all the way down to 12th. But here we are out of the final corner. This is Retro Rixie. A massive crash at the start of the at the end of Q1, and he will take home the win. Dino, out of nowhere, has caught Brutish Metal. Not going to be able to overtake him, though, at the end. And Fiend is going to come on fourth. So for Red Bull, a tremendous day. Checker, Ozza, fighting for 5th and 6th position. Coming out of the final corner, Ozza leaning into the ERS, and DRS is going to be a neck and neck, and Checker just comes right across and chops across Ozza's nose. He's not going to be happy with that, but due to penalties, Ozza will be ahead of Checker. Skatefish will cross the line 7th, Books 8th, Constant Jet 9th. Uncully Boy crashes out the last lap in the last few corners. But here comes Constant Jet. He will come around and should take the 9th position. And for Schold, he will come around and should take 10th. Dasani in 11th. Oh, and Gusty's going to get him into the line. He's going to try to. No, he does not. He gives the position. So Dasani will take 11th, and Gusty will take 12th. Here comes Fratters, really sideways in the Mercedes. You can see the track getting wet, but it's too late. It's not going to mean anything. So the rain at the very end didn't affect anything. But that entire race, what was that entire... Yeah, driver of the day, Red Trixie. Yeah, I'll say coming from 15th and a crash in the end of Q1 to take home the win. What in the world? Well, yeah, I don't know what to say, but I will say this. Oh, Jesus Christ, look at this. Retro Rixie from 15th up to 1st, and then I didn't notice this, but Fiend from 14th to 4th, Schold from 18th to 10th, and Tasani came extremely close to taking home points as well. So all my predictions of the race were wrong, or almost wrong. Ozza will get a little bit of a consolation prize. He will come out here 5th with the fastest lap point of the day, but it should have been a win. He let it get away from him at the end. Retro XE does not have a mic, so he will not be able to join us when it comes to post-race interviews, but what kind of bizarro race was that? I don't even know. I don't even know. I'm still kind of speechless because, like, it wasn't an excessively chaotic race. We did only have 5 DNFs, but, like, the things that did happen were always, like, perfectly positioned to make everything completely random. Ugh. Alright, real quickly, in the party with us, we have XRL Whippy. Whippy, please go ahead and include your audio. You crashed out extremely early in the race, coming into the green. What happened there that ended your race?
Oh no, I just fucked up. I was more happy to yell at Asta for being stupid. But... How is...
Alright, well anyways, that's going to wrap up... We'll wrap up our broadcast here. Whippy holds on to his championship lead, and there is still a chance that he will lock up the title going into the next race, at least. But beyond that, there's not really a whole lot else to talk about except bizarre race. Also, good job to almost everyone here. I don't think anyone walked out here with more than 9 seconds worth of penalties, so good job on that. In a week's time, we'll catch you for the next X3 race. We are in the closing stages of the season. I've been St. Lear 13, and we'll look forward to seeing you in a week's time. In an hour, though, you can catch XRL's X2 division on the main channel if you want a little bit more racing at this track at Hungary. Until then, sayonara.